Hello, I'm Scott, one of the Toro 5 smokers, here to show you how to smoke the best chicken that you can get. So I will start off with what I use for the chicken. I will put the recipe in the description below, so don't worry about that, but I'll just show you kind of what we're going to use. We'll start with half a cup of olive oil, do a fourth a cup of soy sauce, fourth a cup of I prefer lemon juice, but my wife's been really on lime lately, so we've been using lime, so you can use them interchangeably. 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce, 1.5 teaspoons of black pepper, 2 tablespoons of Dijon mustard, and a half a tablespoon of garlic powder. So when mixing these all together, I usually like to do the dry stuff first and then kind of the liquids after. Since the Worcestershire sauce and the Dijon mustard are both, you use the tablespoon, I'll usually use the Worcestershire sauce first because it kind of makes the measuring spoon a little bit greasy, so then when you use the mustard, it just kind of slides right in. Now this is for 2 to 3 chicken breasts. Rarely do I only cook 2 to 3, so oftentimes I will double it. Instead of just doubling it and adding it all into one bag, what I'll do is 2 separate bags. That way I'll make sure the chicken is encompassed by the marinade. So when the marinade is finished, this is kind of what it'll look like. I'll usually just stick it in a freezer-friendly Ziploc bag and then just kind of put it in a bowl, because nothing's worse than doing this and then it tips over. So I've already pre-mixed and threw it all in there. So once it's in there, then I will kind of bring it out, push some air out of the bag, and then really try to mix it up just so you don't have all the black pepper in one spot and all the mustard in one spot. So just kind of go through and get it nice and mixed up there. And put it in the bag, and then now we'll get the chicken ready. So when picking chicken, I'm usually not that picky. I'll just go get a nice full Foster Farm breast from just any grocery store locally, and then have a lot of respect for chicken just because of salmonella that comes with it. So oftentimes I'll use gloves, and just a reminder, I'm sure you're all doing that, but it's always important to have a separate cutting board just for meat, just so you don't transfer any germs that might come with your meat over to your other foods like your vegetables and stuff. So with regard to trimming chicken, if you're buying the store-bought, you generally don't have to do that much trimming on it. What I will do though is kind of look for any areas where there's high accumulation of fat, you know, kind of like this little dangler here, and then just kind of remove it on my own. But most of the fat you can even just leave it on, and then through the smoking process, it'll kind of melt off on its own. You'll notice you'll have a smooth side of the chicken breast and kind of more of the rough side. So on the rough sides where you'll find little discolorations like that, I usually will just remove those with a knife, just a little bit of blood usually. But that's important later on about knowing the difference between the smooth and the rough sides. Once they're nice and trimmed, they're ready to go into your marinade. Again, I'll usually put the marinade in a glass bowl just so it doesn't tip over. And then you just kind of slide them in. Cut it. One. So what I'll do is I'll get all the chicken in there, and then with regard to not wanting to cross-contaminate the salmonella, we'll remove the gloves, throw those away. Fold the bag back over, pull it out of the bowl, and then again try to get as much air out as possible, being careful not to squeeze any of your marinade out. So I'll close as much, just leave a little pocket of air right here, take it as much as I can, close it. So then you have your marinade that covers about 2 to 3 chicken breasts. This is gonna go back in the fridge for 4 hours. If you go over 4 hours, you'll find that sometimes the marinade is a little bit too strong. So I'll do it 4 hours maximum, 2 hours minimum. And then I'll put it back in the bowl. And then while it's in the bowl, just making sure that all parts of the chicken are covered by the marinade. Now, if you could remember every hour or so to go in, you can always flip the chicken as well, just to make sure that everything's getting nice and soaked in that good marinade. Okay, so it has been 4 hours, so it is time to take our chicken out of the marinade. In this process, now we're going to take it out of the marinade and then apply our rub. The rub that I am using right now for chicken is Plowboys Yardbird Rub. Pretty good one. Lowry's makes a good poultry rub as well. Any rub will really do, just kind of whatever you like and whatever you're switching in and out. But Plowboys is always really good with chicken. So what I will do is just pull my chicken breasts out of the marinade. And a smart idea would be to open your rub cap before you get your gloves dirty, which I didn't do this time, but maybe next time. So then I will spread them out, and then I'm always very generous with the rub. And I don't really, it doesn't really matter which side you put the rub on, but I'll just kind of cover the top. And then just go ahead and do the back as well. So after applying the rub, I'll let it kind of sit on there for about 15 minutes, and I'll go turn the smoker on with the lid open. I think that's standard protocol for a smoker, is you want to leave the lid open for about 10 to 15 minutes so it can kind of recalibrate the temperature. So while it's doing that, I'll just kind of let the rub soak in there. And if there's any spots where I put too much rub in one spot, just go ahead and spread that out. And then next step will be putting them on the grill. All right, so now we're ready to put the chicken on the smoker. So I have my chicken breasts here. So what I'm gonna do is turn the smoker up to 350. Okay, so it's at 350 now. And then going over, so how the chickens have, you know, kind of the rough side and the smooth side, what I do is I always put the rough side up first, and then really no way how you put it on the grill. I will tell you this, I know the side here closest to the smokestack cooks a lot hotter than the other side for some reason. So I'll always tend to put my thicker meats on that way. So if you have one side that burns a little bit hotter than the other, then I would recommend that, putting the thicker meat there. So what we'll do is just go ahead and throw it on the grill here. Again, kind of with the bigger meats on one side, and then keeping the smooth side down for now. Space them out a little bit more. I like to put them right on the grill, because what that does is it also puts the little grill marks on the chicken breast as well. Okay, and then close it up. And then what we'll do is wait 15 minutes. We'll come out in 15 minutes, and then what we do is we flip them from kind of that rough side, flip them over to the smooth side, and then I'll leave it there until we reach our desired internal temperature. The internal temperature that we're gonna go for is 163 degrees, okay? So we'll be back in 15 minutes to flip these. Okay, so it's been 15 minutes, so it's time to flip. So I'll give you kind of a look at what it looks like. So already they're starting to look good here. So flip is just as simple, just grab it and turn it over. And then you can see on the chicken breast that they're already starting to develop those nice little lines that for some reason make the chicken just taste a little bit better. So the other thing I'll do at this step after I flip them is this is when I'll put the thermometer probes in. Some of you might ask, well, why didn't you do that before? The reason I didn't is because it's just easier to flip them when the probes aren't in. So I always use 2 temperature probes, and I'll put one on each side just so I can have a good balance of which ones are too hot and which ones aren't hot enough. That way if one chicken's getting hot and the other one's not, I can just arrange them around in that pattern. So what we'll do now is kind of close the lid, and then I have a thermometer that will tell me when it reaches 163, so I just set that and just kind of wait and keep an eye on things. But I would try not to open the lid. Every time you open the lid, the smoke gets out, you lose that much flavor. So we'll just wait until my temperature alarm goes off telling us it's 163, and then we'll come back and take a look at them. So while we're waiting for the chicken to cook, I just kind of want to go over some few things on why chicken can be tricky. If you take the temperature of chicken a little bit too high, that can cause the meat to dry out quicker, and then you kind of have a tougher bite with the chicken. So you really want to keep an eye on it. The other thing tricky is, since the breast sizes are different, and then also depending on the weather, other factors, some chicken breasts are actually going to finish cooking before others. So very often what I'll do is go out, I know I have the probes in the meat already, but just to kind of gauge the other pieces that are in between the 2 probes, is I'll go out with a different temperature probe, the one that's a handheld, and actually go and check the other meats. So I'll use my probe right now. So in a situation like this, I have one of the meats is cooking at 149, the other one's at 129. So that's a 20-degree difference. So what I can do, number one, is go out, check with my individual probe here just to see if that is reading correctly or not. And then if it is, that's when you can kind of go ahead and move breasts around and say, okay, maybe I'll move this one to a different part to try to slow it down. So you don't want to cook it too fast, but you do want to give it some time to get as much smoke flavor in there. So now with a discrepancy like that, what I'm going to go out and do, just kind of check with the individual probe and see. The other thing you have to make sure is when I put the indwelling thermometer probes in there, did I possibly go through the back and that's touching the grill and that's why it's rendering a little bit hotter? Did I really find that thick piece of meat to put the probe in? So we'll go outside and take a look real quick with our individual monitor. So we're out here, we're about to check. Again, you want to limit how much time the lid is off the chicken, so we kind of want to go quick. What I brought too, I don't know, it's a good investment to get a glove that you can essentially touch the grill with and not burn your hand. So just in case I do have the thermometer probe in a wrong position, I could just throw the glove on real quick, pull it out, and find a better position on it. So again, I have 2 probes. So the number 2 probe is this side. So just from the interaction now number 2 is up to 155 and number 1's up to 135. So we still have the 20-degree difference. So I'll go ahead and turn this probe on and we'll just take a quick peek. So I'll go in there and kind of stab it in there and see what it's looking at. So the individual probe is rendering about 150. So that's telling me it's about 5 degrees off there. And then we'll check this one here real quick. And this individual meat is at about 132. So the probes are correct. I guess the one probe number 2 is reading about 5 degrees hotter. So all that's telling me is that piece of meat's probably going to be done about 5 to 10 minutes faster than the other. So we could try moving it around, or just know that one will be done quicker. Okay, so since my individual probe was reading about 5 degrees higher, I'm going to pull it at 168. So let's go out and pull that one, and then we'll check the temperature of the other pieces of chicken. So, and as you can see there too, the temperature probe 1 actually caught up. So there was only about an 8-degree difference between the chicken breasts, so that turned out really nice. So we'll go ahead and check the individual temperatures here real quick. So we'll just want to double check there. So this one's reading at 167, so that's an excellent time to pull. Now, a lot of you might be thinking, well, the USDA recommends pulling chicken at a temperature of 165, which you are very correct. But I find that when you pull the chicken and let it rest for a little bit, you'll notice that it'll actually continue cooking while it's resting. So this one's at 161, so we'll leave that for another couple minutes. This one's at 167, so we'll pull this guy. Okay, this one here is at, let's try a different piece there. This one's reading at 167, so we'll pull this one here. And this guy here is reading at 167, so we'll pull this guy here too. So it looks like this little guy still needs a little bit more time. I'm going to move him over to the side that burns a little bit hot and get that lid closed. Okay. And then let's take these inside and we're going to rest them for 5 minutes, at least 5 minutes. If you're ever in a situation though where one piece finishes a lot quicker, and let's say you had 5 guests coming over and one piece finished like 10 minutes before the other ones, you can always wrap that chicken in tin foil and then throw it in a cooler. If you wrap it in a towel as well and throw it in a cooler, that'll keep that chicken really hot until all the other ones are ready to come off too. So, but hopefully they all finish around the same time. So I'm gonna bring these inside, let them rest for about 5 to 10 minutes, and then we'll go ahead and cut in and see if they're nice and moist. Okay, well let's cut into this piece here and see if we retained our moisture here. So we'll go ahead and slice this in half here. So it sounds really juicy. Go ahead and open that up there. So it looks like the meat is nice and juicy. It's kind of fall apart and you can see the nice fluids coming out. So that looks really good. Nice little small smoke ring around there. So it looks like a nice good piece of meat there. So again, chicken can be pretty tricky because you don't want to cook it too fast or you're going to rob yourself of getting that nice smoke flavor. But you don't want to cook it too long or else you're going to dry the chicken out. Today, this whole process, the smoking process only took about 30 minutes, which is a lot slower than usual, but it is 105 degrees outside. So weather had a factor in how fast it took to cook this. You don't necessarily have to use the marinade that I used. You can Google or find any other marinade recipe, but as long as you follow the, cook it for 15 minutes on the rough side and then flip it and then cook it at 350 degrees and then watching those temperature probes till 163, you should be fine. Last thing I want to talk about was what type of wood to use. I used hickory today. Hickory is a great wood overall. Another good wood that's for poultry or any type of fruit woods like the apple wood also works really good as well. So I hope this works. If this chicken turns out really well, go ahead and let us know in the comments. If you use this and it worked out good, give us a like as well. And then always, we'd appreciate your subscription. So have a good day.